And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And for me, I'm on Mountain Time, and I'm in Montana right now. Beautiful state. It's gorgeous. I'm back in the U.S., and we have Jim Walden with us today. I think it's a great conversation. Jim Walden drops out of the race and endorses Andrew Cuomo. So let's just jump right into it. So, Jim, I just want to say that you've been seen as someone, I guess I want to say that you've been seen as someone who challenged status quo, you could say, and a man of integrity, a former prosecutor. And with that being said, it seems that you've now endorsed someone that kind of embodies that political machine that you seem to be opposed to initially, right? You were going outside the box when it came to the Civilian Complaint Review Board, when it came to the vaccine mandate and reinstating workers that were wrongfully terminated. So could you walk us through why you dropped out, and with those things, in light of that, why you endorsed Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah, sorry. I just took myself off mute. Can you guys hear me okay? Great.
We got that.
Yeah, so Eric, thanks for the question. Hey, John, thanks so much for having me on. This has not been an easy race, right? Obviously, I ran in part because I knew that Andrew Cuomo was going to be entering the race, and it was very much my hope that my candidacy would break through and that people would see a different way of leading. But we are where we are, and I try to be as responsible as possible in terms of always, interrogating myself and what my path was. And as I saw it become clearer and clearer that the race was going to go to Mamdani as long as there was a multi-candidate race, and that I was going to be taking votes away from a candidate that needed it. I had the hard conversation with myself and my campaign team, and decided that the path for integrity for me was to drop out of the race. Now, we have candidates in the race that that all have serious baggage, and certainly Mamdani, from my perspective, is the most threatening mayoral candidate I can ever imagine. And I say that he's a very smart guy. He's a terrific campaigner. He's run a campaign that has inspired a lot of people, inspired them around the wrong ideas, in my view. But I looked at the math back in July, and I said in July that once the polls came out, I wanted to do my own with the other candidates, and nobody took me up on that idea, but that I was going to endorse the front runner. And in every single poll, Andrew Cuomo has had a comfortable lead. Now, that doesn't change any of the positions that I've taken. And to the extent that I have a voice, I'm going to continue to advocate for all of those things. I strongly believe that what happened during COVID with the termination of employees was just wrong. I believe that it was wrong for the city to retrade health benefits for retired public servants in order to solve budget problems. I believe that the CCRB is woefully broken and should be disbanded and replaced with an agency that can actually do a better job. So all those things continue to be true.
So here's the thing, though, right? Like, everyone's like, "Oh, you got to vote for Cuomo, who already lost the Democratic primary to Zohran Mamdani." I don't know one policy the man has. I get you. I know your policies, Jim. We know them well. Like, we spoke to you about it, and I know people personally that believe that Andrew Cuomo should be in jail. I know people personally that will never vote for Andrew Cuomo. Why should New Yorkers forget that the number one public safety issue facing New Yorkers, which is criminal recidivism, was signed in, welcomed, and still being lauded by Andrew Cuomo? Why should we forget that during COVID, he suspended the Constitution and believed himself to be a king and started acting like it? And I have numerous video proof that throughout the next few weeks, I will be releasing of when we used to call him King Cuomo, when we all had little pictures of him on our house. Like, why should we forget about that right now? And why should the Republican nominee drop out or a Democrat, in my opinion, a far left Democrat who got destroyed in the Democratic primary? Like, what is the case there?
Yeah, so I'm not here to tell anyone to forget about anything. I mean, I think that's when we forget about history, then we're doomed to repeat it. So I think that we have to, to the extent that Cuomo wins, we have to hold him accountable the way that I have done with every single mayor since I became politically active, through litigation against literally every single mayor since Bloomberg. I think when Giuliani was there, I was still at the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I'm not telling you to forget any of those things, but the simple truth is that Curtis has not broken 20% in a single poll since I think the last time he broke was the Harris X poll in I think it was like 6 months ago. And if Curtis stays in the race, then we are going to have a Mamdani administration. And that's worse for everyone on just about every issue, other than the small group of people that will benefit from some of his policies. It's even those people, the benefits are going to be temporary because the amount of money that it's going to take to afford all of his programs is going to bankrupt the city. So listen, it's a hard decision. I mean, and everyone's got to make that decision for themselves. And so I can only tell people the truth that I see about the math, which is as long as there are two other candidates splitting the centrist vote, Mamdani's going to win. So to me, it's just a question of what is most important. And I'm not just talking the talk, I walk the walk. It was not easy to basically take 10 months or 11 months, however long I was in the campaign, and walk away from that. That was a huge amount of work that essentially I stepped away from, only because it was more important to me that there be a chance to defeat Mamdani. And that chance only comes if there's a single candidate. And just to be clear, John, I said I was going to endorse the front runner. If the front runner had been Curtis Sliwa, I would have endorsed Curtis Sliwa. To me, it's that none of the candidates is perfect. Everybody can lean into what they don't like or what they do like in the candidates, but the math is the math.
I agree. Not every candidate is perfect, but I think that we can't expect them to be flawless, but we can't have someone that has ultimately more flaws than they've had success. And I see that with Andrew Cuomo. I was affected personally. My father was in a nursing home during COVID. He passed, and I felt it personally. I watched my father get buried with binoculars. And you say that you would vote for the front runner. And I hate to sit out of a vote, but would you vote for a front runner if they're absolutely, completely flawed, even if they're the front runner? Would you rather just sit out and say, you know what, there's no one here who's a viable candidate, or at least get behind someone that you think embodies your vision, even if there's just a fighting chance? At this point, we still have 5 weeks left. Why don't we try to rally the troops and get behind Curtis Sliwa? If you don't believe what embodies Cuomo as being someone that is your vision, why even get behind him at all? I mean, there's still a democratic process, at least I hope at this point.
Well, listen, Eric, again, I'm a guy of nuance, for better or for worse, right? And so what Cuomo did during COVID, I'm never going to forget or forgive him for. I stood alongside those families, and I'm very sorry for your loss, but I met so many families that lost their parents or their grandparents during COVID. And on bail reform, he shouldn't have signed it into law, and he shouldn't have championed it. I mean, he obviously leaned way too far to the left, but that was true of the entire Democratic Party at the time. There were very lonely voices, mostly in the independent and the conservative side, that said that bail reform was a terrible idea. I mean, to be fair, there are some aspects of the bail reform law that were good. And the main problem with it is that it didn't give judges discretion to keep recidivists and people accused of violent crimes in jail during the pendency of their cases. So in any event, I'm not going to forget any of that stuff, but at the same time, he is hold on one second, guys. Sorry, guys. So the truth about Curtis, though, is that he is never going to get significant support from centrist Democrats. They just don't see him as a viable candidate. You can like that or not like it, but that's the truth. And the poll numbers show that. And based on my study of past election, it's really is our centrist Democrats that ultimately decide who's going to be the mayor of the city of New York. And Andrew Cuomo's got a hell of a lot more support among centrist Democrats. I view him more as a centrist, obviously, while understanding some of the things that he did that leaned too far into the far left while he was governor. And I really wish he would just be candid about it and say, I made mistakes. He said that in some ways, but not in a way that people really, take any comfort from.
So this is my issue, right? You have a lot of people saying, "Oh, if you support Curtis Sliwa, you're gonna ensure a Mamdani victory," and that's basically your messaging here. Is you're saying that anyone that supports Mamdani and supports Sliwa is ensuring a victory. But I see it the total opposite. One, I've spoken to the Sliwa campaign, and I believe that they should start dropping out polls because polls are made to the low information voters. They're 400-person likely voter polls. They're not really giving me the true numbers. And anyone that believes that, I mean, those were the same polls that told us that Cuomo was going to destroy Zohran Mamdani. And we were sitting here saying, no, he's not. Zohran's going to win. And sure enough, those polls were proven wrong. And I'm looking at the sampling size. I'm looking at who they're sampling. And I'm sitting there and saying, that's not actually telling the story. And Sliwa, I believe, is running a campaign of integrity, but I think he's running too much integrity. I think he should be dropping out his own polls, and it would show a different tale, And so he's not doing that. But here's my thing: are you sitting here and telling us that if Andrew Cuomo didn't drop out of the race, that centrist Democrats are going to vote for Zohran Mamdani? If he's such an existential threat to New York City, then Andrew Cuomo should drop out of the race and endorse Curtis Sliwa. It's that simple. I mean, he's the Republican nominee. Andrew Cuomo lost already.
Trying to take myself off mute. Listen, again, I appreciate your perspective, John. I really do. But we are where we are, and the numbers don't lie. And I wholly agree with you on the issue with respect to the polls, right? I've never been a guy that is believed in the polls, but you got to take something from the polls when they're so consistent over the course of time. There have been 10 polls since the Democratic primary, and they all basically say the same thing. So again, I think Curtis has run a great race. I think he's an amazing New Yorker. And again, if he was the front runner, I would have endorsed him instead of Cuomo. But if you believe the polls, even as taken as a whole, right? The only person that has a chance to beat him is Cuomo, and that chance evaporates if there's another candidate in the race that draws any more than a couple of percentage points. Because if Cuomo were to win, it would be a squeaker, assuming that Mamdani is going to get the same or more votes than he did in the Democratic primary.
Jim, I don't mean to be facetious, but let's test logic. If Cuomo dropped out today and Mamdani is the leading man in the polls, do you get behind Mamdani? Because based on your logic,
no.
That's what we're saying here. Well, why would they change anything?
Well, listen, Mamdani's a socialist. Mamdani's anti-cop. I'll never support a candidate like that. So
Cuomo wanted to defund the police.
Cuomo is pretty selfless to me. I mean, he shut religious institutions and demonized people for having religious events, weddings, communions, bar mitzvahs. People were evil. We were gonna, it doesn't get more tyrannical than that.
Well, listen, John, I don't want to debate you on how excessive the whole country was during COVID. As someone that wasn't thrilled about taking vaccines myself, I ultimately ended up doing it. But I really strongly believe that that the excesses across the entire government, federal, state, and local, were overdone, unnecessary. and a lot of people got hurt. But in terms of other things that we care about, I believe that he didn't defund the police. He said that it was a legitimate school of thought, but that he didn't agree with it. That's what his quote was. I don't think it's a legitimate school of thought. I never thought it was a legitimate school of thought. I thought it was suicidal. But obviously politicians change their perspectives. And I think at least the version of Andrew Cuomo that we have now is someone that clearly is going to support the police, fully fund them, get more police officers on the street, try and retain more police officers, do more for the police at this critical time. So I think that he's a strong candidate on safety, and I think he's a strong candidate on the economy. I think that he's going to build ambitiously, and that's really what we need to get past the housing crisis.
Jim, one moment. I just want to say, because we said, I'm just going by what you said. You said that you would get behind the front runner, and you said that on previous episodes. We've had you on here numerous times. We've had great conversations on and off camera, and I always find it a pleasure. But you said you would endorse the front runner. Why would the logic change now? That's my point. If Curtis Sliwa was not the front runner in comparison to Zohran Mamdani, why would that change now? Why would logic change?
Yeah, because I knew who the candidates were, right? So it's we're not talking about a situation where I was always talking about the front runner in a race against Mamdani. I mean, you guys will remember that I was one of the earliest people to predict that Mamdani was going to win the Democratic primary. I've been looking at this data for a long time. You guys were obviously ahead of the curve too. So would it be great if we had a different mix of candidates and we didn't have to make what's a Hobson's choice? Yeah, it would be great. But that's not the reality. That's not what we have right now. We have a race that is a 3-person race where we already know that the Democrat got whatever it was, 550,000 votes. So if we get record turnout and there's 1.3 or 1.4 million people that show up, he's going to get around 650,000 votes in the general. And that just doesn't leave enough votes for 2 candidates to split.
And that's why the guy that lost the primary should resign his campaign. And if he cared about New York City, show that you do for once. And you're saying that he has like these affordability acts. First of all, Zohran Mamdani's not making the city more affordable. Andrew Cuomo's not making the city more affordable. Curtis Sliwa was not making the city more affordable. Anybody buying on that? Again, low information hook points. It's not actually happening. Public safety. He's doubling down on bail reform, saying it righted a great wrong when it didn't. The idea behind it was to right a wrong, and it was implemented completely wrong, horribly, and it cost people their lives. Public safety's on the ballot, and I'm sorry, like Andrew Cuomo has proven that he's completely inept and incompetent when it comes to public safety. And until today, his campaign is anybody but Mamdani. He has no platform.
I apologize, guys. I'm going to have to go after this, but I really do appreciate you having me on. I completely understand your perspective. I don't agree with it in the sense that we're still in the same situation. No matter how much you hate Cuomo, no matter how much you think. I mean, let me ask you a question. If it was just a 2-person race and it was Cuomo versus Mamdani, would you vote for Mamdani?
If it was a 2-person race, would I vote for Mamdani? I'll be honest. I would never vote for either of them. I'm too principled, and I cannot forgive somebody that should be in jail, and I'm not going to vote against someone who I believe they're the same person, in my opinion. I actually believe Andrew Cuomo has a much worse record, and Andrew Cuomo should probably be in jail. He should have been impeached. He resigned before his impeachment. And there's no way in God's green earth I could ever put my vote towards Andrew Cuomo. If those are my choices, I have no choices. I don't know about you, Eric. What do you think?
No, Jim, I don't believe in abstaining from votes, but that would be the time I would put forth a counter protest, right? Counter protest and say we cannot have these 2 as our potential candidates for New York City, the most iconic city in the entire world. We already know Cuomo's record, and Mamdani's is a mirror image of Cuomo and Eric Adams, which to me is a both epic fail on a state and city level. I just find it hard to believe. I have nothing but respect for you. We've had you on here numerous times. We've had great conversations, but I have to admit the logic just doesn't seem to make sense. But at the same token, I respect it's a democratic process. I respect it. But just to go by the front runner, I believe that we could get behind Curtis Sliwa with 5 weeks left. If we push him forward as a crime fighter and not just as a public official, I believe we could catch fire and he could win.
Well, listen, guys. I'm sorry that this all happened during my transit here, but I've got to get going. I really appreciate you having me on, and good luck with the rest of the show. You guys are the best.
Safe travels, Jim. Talk to you.
Jim, thanks for wearing a blue shirt. Be good. It's Blue Shirt Day.
So, all right, people. So you heard it. Jim Walden, he knows that it was an hour and a half show, but yet he only decided this morning that he would only have 15 minutes. So, take for that what you will. I didn't invite Jim on. Jim's communication girl reached out. So, I was a little taken back by that. It was a short interview. So I'm going to reach back out in the next few days and see if he actually wants to come on and debate the issues. But I think what we saw clearly here is there really is no debate. You're being hooked with low information talking points with Andrew Cuomo. And I'm getting like the same type of fear that people tried to place in me during COVID. They're trying to place in me now. I'm getting message after message, text message after text message. John, you're going to get blamed for Zohran Mamdani becoming the mayor. I'm like, I'm going to get blamed for Zohran. I was like, bring it on. I've been called everything. Even what was I the other day? I was a religious zealot. I said, blame me for whatever you like. I said, but we need to blame Andrew Cuomo, who already lost the Democratic primary and is now the spoiler candidate. There is no way on God's green earth that Republicans, conservatives, principled people that consider themselves moderates should be sitting here and saying, oh, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, needs to drop out for King Cuomo, who got destroyed in the Democratic primary. It's like, what world do we live in where this is what we're saying? Like, Eric, am I like seriously? Like, you I think your logic questions are good. Like, is there really logic here? Like, is this really logic, or is it just fear mongering?
Well, that's my point, right? I always believe that when you have a conversation, when there's opposition meets opportunity. But at the same token, to see if someone actually believes, because he said this is his belief. If they really believe and get behind it, we have to test logic. And the logic just doesn't make sense. He said initially in this interview that we just had, and he may be right, I have to look back, but he said that in other episodes when he was on this podcast, he said he would always get behind the front runner. So if that's the case, if it was just down to Mamdani and Curtis Sliwa, if Mamdani is the front runner, that's what you're saying. You would get behind Mamdani, and the logic doesn't meet it. It doesn't meet at this point, because the reality is, as much as I respect Jim, we have to be honest. He's not being truthful here when it comes to why he's getting behind Cuomo, because it doesn't make sense. It actually is polarizing to his own logic of what he's saying. Now, to me, this is a mirror image of what we've seen with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, because Kamala Harris lacked any substance, lacked a good campaign. The only messaging was it's anti-Donald Trump. And that's what we see right now. Anything is anti-Zohran Mamdani, but yet he couldn't tell us what is Cuomo going to do now. He actually misquoted what Cuomo said. Cuomo never apologized for anything and didn't say anything was a mistake. He said it was a good idea. It's a different school of thought. He didn't say it was a different school of thought and it doesn't make sense. He said defunding the police is a school of thought. He said that increasing police is a school of thought. He never said what he's for or what he's against. So he left that open. This just doesn't make sense. It doesn't test logic. And that's why I find it hard to believe. Jim's platform initially when he came on the Finest Unfiltered was that he is going to challenge status quo. He didn't say that word for word, but that was his campaign. Challenge status quo. He embodies something different. He was a former prosecutor. Go against the machine. We need real people. And yet now he's embodying the same person that not only destroyed the entire city, but the entire state, and where other states actually took their template for. Me personally, I lost my father. I watched my father get buried with binoculars because of Andrew Cuomo's policy. And we're going to get behind him. Would I vote for Mamdani? No. But Mamdani didn't kill my father either.
I mean, so like that's the thing here. It's like it's sitting there and it's basically giving you the illusion of choice. Andrew Cuomo got completely like if what Jim is saying and what the people supporting Cuomo are saying, oh, he swung too far left, what they're really telling you is he's got no spine. He's not a leader. He cannot be trusted. So what's going to stop? Why does Andrew Cuomo grow a spine now after resigning from the seat of the governor? Like, what fortified him now? He has zero plan. His campaign is literally vote for me, not Mondani. That's his campaign. He has no public safety platform. I mean, I'll bring up a video in a second about bail reform where he's literally saying he's applauding himself for it. I mean, and how does that make sense? How does that make sense when, I don't agree with Jessica Tisch and I don't agree with Eric Adams on much, but I agree with Jessica Tisch and Eric Adams when they say that recidivism is the number one problem in public safety in New York City. And that's what they've been saying over and over and over again. And why is recidivism the number one problem in New York City? Oh, it's because of bail reform, right? And the same thing. And when you look at people being demonized, the cops that are being harassed daily on New York City streets, the cops that are being doxxed, what is that a result of? It's a result of Andrew Cuomo repealing 50A, right? I mean, this is like public safety. Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo on public safety are the same. Because here's Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani's telling you what the DSA wants to do. And you could be assured that Andrew Cuomo is going to do that when he receives pressure from the DSA. Because again, like I said, Andrew Cuomo doesn't want to be the mayor of New York City. He's seeking higher office, and he's going to push in that Democratic line. And if the Dems go even further left, he's going further left. I just need to remind people. I need to remind people of who Andrew Cuomo is. Because Jim said that Zohran's anti-police and that he's a socialist. Well, what does this make Andrew Cuomo? Listen to Dov Hikind here in 2020. Listen to this conversation. I like Dov Hikind. I like his messaging. I've always respected him. I know him since I'm a child. But right here, to me, I listened to this last night and I was disgusted. One, I'm disgusted because Dan Manarino is sitting there and he forgets we have a United States Constitution. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is what happened to us in America. How did this happen in America where we demonized religious institutions? We told people that they couldn't gather more than 50, and it was based on nothing. It was based on Andrew Cuomo just deciding, hey, 50 people. Like, what? What are you talking about, 50 people? What are you talking about, 6 feet apart? I can't walk 6 feet next to my wife who I sleep in the same bed with? What are you talking about, dude? Listen to this. Like, this happened in America, people, and you guys don't forget, and it was brought to you by King Cuomo. Listen to him. Listen to him. Listen to what he did to the Jewish community. Dov Hikind's trying to defend the Jewish community, and he's so afraid at this point because of King Cuomo, because they don't know what they do. So he's got to tell everybody, follow the rules. But instead, what they should have said is, I'm absolutely not following these rules because they're unconstitutional. But Andrew Cuomo thought that he could just suspend the Constitution. Listen to it.
And the governor has to stop behaving and causing a wave of anti-Semitism throughout. I mean, the things that are happening are unbelievable as a result of the governor tagging the Jewish community. Am I Hasidic? I have a target on my back because I wear a yarmulke, I'm a Jew, and terrible things are going on out there in the streets because of what the governor has done. You know, the World Health Organization just came out 48 hours ago. The World Health Organization advised leaders all over the world saying lockdowns are detrimental. They should not be used. And the governor has been dishonest with the Jewish community, lying to its leaders. And the other issue is, and this is very important, you know, people within these zones that the governor talks about in Borough Park were store owners who were following the rules, doing the right thing. Yeah. Many synagogues doing the right thing. So what has the governor done?
So when you look at the actual,
shopping, they want to buy a pair of shoes for their children.
Yeah,
they go to a different neighborhood.
When you look at the numbers, right? Borough Park, because you keep talking about Borough Park, it has some of the highest infection rates in this city. And how can residents there feel that they're being singled out or scapegoated when you look at the video and at face value at the video, you see a number of people not wearing masks walking around the streets. And those are state imposed guidelines here.
Yeah. And I have traveled over the past few days, Central Park in Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens. We have videos showing in areas all over the city. People
but the numbers, it's the numbers that are driving the story here.
Must follow the rules. There's no question about that. But the governor, why does he have to talk about the Jews, the Jews, the Jews? Would he do that to the Black community? Would he do that to the Asian community in this fashion? Of course not. He has an obsession now. I am going to close the synagogues. King Cuomo, he's running the world. It's his language.
But I want to be very clear here, sir. I just want to be very clear that there is not just Jewish communities that are being closed down in these neighborhoods. There are stores that are not Jewish owned that are also closed down. Like I said, private and public schools, the Catholic diocese as well, Borough Park, Flatlands, Gravesend, Midwood, Gerritsen Beach as well. And so
all he talks about is the Jewish places. All he talks about is Jews, 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 Hasidic Jews. He tells the Catholic Church that you guys are doing fine. It's not your problem. It's the Jews.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear here that I just want to be very clear here.
I
want to be very clear. It's the numbers. You're bringing up videos from Manhattan and other neighborhoods. It's the numbers from the Department of Health that are driving this story. And when you look at the actual numbers.
So this was a real conversation. That's my point in the whole thing. This was a real conversation. This was Andrew Cuomo demonizing Jewish communities because he absolutely did that. He absolutely labeled them as dirty. I thought, I don't know. You're a Jew and you're voting for Andrew Cuomo? You want to be someone that labels you as dirty? Wow, that's weird. Maybe you should read a little history. Read what Hitler did. What did he do? Oh, he put the disgust factor into Jews. How did he do that? Oh, he said that you were dirty disease spreaders.
Well, you know what? I have to laugh because it's so true, right? It's almost, you watch those videos now and it's like, wow, that really happened. It's almost 6 years ago, but it's really not that long ago. But in this decade, in this century, that actually happened. Those conversations happened where we demonize people and we lock them out. And now Andrew Cuomo saying, "Whoa, I didn't lock anybody out. I didn't lock any." You know what? They chose to do it. Yeah, right. We don't forget. Now let's get back to Jim Walden for a second. I just want to say that I'm disappointed in his response. I believe opposition meets opportunity, but listening to him and watching his body language, and I'll tell him to his face, have a conversation out of respect. I don't believe that he actually has the conviction and is really standing behind what he's saying. It's something I studied doing police work and through different books, and my passion is body language and the nonverbal cues of what I saw in that conversation. To me, say he doesn't really get behind what he's saying here, which is disappointing for Jim, because Jim was, kind of a guy that we saw that he's outside the box. He's going to push back against the machine. So what he's saying to me is he's going strictly by the numbers. He said he's going to support who's the front runner. Now, John, you said it on Monday. Most of these polls are pure bullshit anyway. If we go by polls and we go by these polls, fine, Mamdani's the front runner. But let's be honest, Curtis Sliwa is the only front runner for true New Yorkers. It's not necessarily true New Yorkers that are voting for Zohran Mamdani, but true New Yorkers that love New York City streets are getting behind Curtis Sliwa. He's been battle tested. He's been on the streets. He's street savvy. He knows the streets. He's not just your public official. He's a crime fighter. He's someone that was a true leader in New York City, even when it wasn't trendy. So for those reasons, he is the front runner. So Jim, if you're watching this in transition, wherever you're traveling right now, you should get behind Curtis Sliwa, because yes, he actually is the front runner, because these polls are pure bullshit. But for real New Yorkers, and when we talk about New Yorkers, not just people in Manhattan that are transplants from the Midwest, but true New Yorkers that grew up in Staten Island and Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx and Brooklyn, the outside boroughs, not just Manhattan. Those people who walk the streets of New York, they love Curtis Sliwa. Blacks, whites, Asians, all those people love Curtis Sliwa. When they see that red beret, there's a man that's been battle tested, has been on the streets of New York City. So Jim, there's always time for redemption. Reconsider your thoughts. Get behind Curtis Sliwa. We need to get everyone behind Curtis Sliwa. Now we have 5 weeks left to get the city where it needs to be. If not, the next 4 years are going to be grim an extension of Eric Adams and a further extension from former Mayor Bill de Blasio. We still have a chance. We need to catch fire. We need to do it now.
So a couple of questions, right? One, before we even get into Jim's campaign, all that stuff, the one question I have for you, he has his communications girl reach out that she wants to come on. I say, sure, Wednesday, 8:05. Is there any chance that he just books 15 minutes, or was that done completely purposely?
John, you are spot on. Jim knows us well. We've had conversations with Jim on camera, off camera. We built a great rapport with Jim since the beginning. He's been on this entire network because he's not only has Jim been on this podcast, but he was on Sal Greco's show, and he was also on the Executive Perspective. And Jim knows damn well. Jim's a very intelligent man. He knows that this is a long platform network, and usually our shows run from an hour and a half to 3 hours. We'll go as long as it takes. If Jim said, listen, I want 5 hours to break this down, he knows damn well John and I would have said, okay, we're ready to go for 6. And our friends and listeners, they're ready to go too. They're always ready. They're on board. They sit for the ride with us. So to me, there's no doubt in my mind that this was done on purpose. I don't take it personal, but it does send a message. And to me, it paints a big picture, the bigger picture of what's really going on here. So, John, what are your thoughts on that? I know you think it was on purpose also, but what are your thoughts on why they did that?
Well, I think that he did that to come. I don't know why he wanted to come on, first off, and run off here for 15 minutes, because honestly, that's the Cuomo camp now. That's what they look like. You guys can't debate. You know, we're respectful. Will we ever rude to Jim? Would we ever be rude to Jim? Will we ever be rude to Andrew Cuomo or anybody else? No. But what? There's questions that need to be answered. But questions of violence in today. You know, questions of violence. That was totally done on purpose to deflect, to come on here and attempt to save face. And honestly, it looks a lot worse. It looks a lot worse. It looks a lot worse. So here's my other question. You know, initially when Jim had reached out to do the show, he's like, I want to come on. I'm running for mayor. I want to announce my campaign. I got all these great ideas. I started calling around. I said, who's this Jim Walden guy? I don't know him. You know, I looked him up. I know he's this. And what I was told is that be careful. Jim Walden is a Cuomo plant. That's what I was told. Be careful. Jim Walden is a Cuomo plant. But I spoke with Jim, and I like Jim. And I'm like, you know what? Let's see where it goes. If he's a Cuomo plant in time, we'll find out. I don't believe that to be the case. I take everything I hear about people with a grain of salt. I don't just take, even if you're my best friend and you tell me, yo, watch that guy, I'm still gonna, you know, I don't know where you were getting information from. I don't know if it's third party. And I got to sit there and say, I'm starting to say, you know what? Maybe those people were right. What do you think about that, Eric?
I think the reason why Jim came on for 15 minutes, I think damn well he knew. I mean, I have to be honest. I said, I think he's going to get cold feet. I don't think he's going to sit through this because 2 hours, we're going to get into some deep conversations. There's a lot of layers to peel back when we speak about Cuomo. And I figured you said it too. We talked about this. There would be a lot of deflection towards Mamdani. I think this was a 15-minute conversation to get sound bites. And that's what the Cuomo campaign is all about. Just quick sound bites. And I think that this was an opportunity to get a couple of sound bites and put it out there because this addresses more than 41,000 actual written subscribers. And that's a majority of city workers. We have New York City cops. We have firemen. We have people from all over the world. But we have a great base with the blue-collar workers in New York City. And I think this was an opportunity to get some sound bites for those type of viewers. And but our friends and listeners are not to be fooled.
Well, he failed.
Well, I don't think, listen. The reality,
Cuomo,
listen.
who else you got? Send us as a party or Melissa Russo. We want to talk to them. We know you're not going to do an interview. We know you're not going to do an interview, big guy. Hey, give the deed.
He knows we're going to treat him with respect. Listen, I like Jim. We don't take it personal, but the reality is when you have a conversation, you have to test logic. Based on what he said, it doesn't make any sense. And that's where we started to see the conversation fall apart on his end because at that point, he knew He was a prosecutor. What do you do as a prosecutor? You test logic, right? You test logic to determine someone's culpability, why they committed a crime, and if they had the intent to do it. Same thing here. We tested his logic and it fell apart. And we saw him kind of sit back and start to get uncomfortable and get smaller in his chair because the logic didn't make any sense. And he knew that. I think he was looking for some sound bites. Jim knows this is a 2-hour platform. But you know what? I still welcome Jim here if he wants to come back. We'll have a further conversation.
He just texted me. He said he'll come back on. So we'll have him back on.
Jim.
We're going to have a long form conversation like we normally do, Jim. All right. Not 15-minute sound bites. Wasn't good. We're going to chop up a lot of sound bites, though. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, real quick before I forget this, I just want to put this out there. Athena Clark running for city council. She needs $600 to make matching funds. She needs $600 from New York City residents, right? So that she could get matching funds. If you're in New York City, if you have $20, if you have $5, if you have $10, if you have anything, please donate to Athena Clark. This is an important election. We need to take back from the feet as well as trying to attack from the head. We need to get the radicals out of city council. She's going up against a radical anti-NYPD candidate in Mercedes Narcisse. We need people to hold the line. Athena Clark is a sweetheart. She was a great teacher. She loves kids. She's a great person, and she has a spine. She loved her job, and Eric Adams forced her. He said, put this in your body or you can't work. And Athena Clark said, I'm not doing that, and held the line until today. She's been nothing but respectful. She's tried the courts. The courts are in New York are disgusting. The court, I'm not going to go through all their rulings on her, but it was absolutely disgusting, and those judges should be disbarred. And Donald Trump's DOJ, Harmeet Dillon and Leo Torella, are just as disgusting because they're letting those rulings stand and they're doing absolutely nothing about it. So screw them too. But that's where we are in New York City. The courts are disgusting, but Athena Clark is ready to get in the fray in city council. If you have $1, please go to Athena Clark's website. Donate what you can. She needs $600. If you could put her over the hump, please do so.
Great point, by the way. I like Athena Clark. Shout out to you, Athena Clark. We wish you well. I mean, she stood up. She was a teacher. She was terminated. She embodies everything that Eric Adams is supposed to support, and we see nothing but opposition. It's completely polarizing. She's a black female. Her descendants come from the Caribbean. She herself is of Jamaican and West Indian descent. She embodies everything that Eric Adams talks about, right? She's a female, black, hardworking person. But no, she was discarded just as Marlon Bethel was, because it doesn't matter she's female, black. It doesn't matter that Marlon Bethel's black. They were general population. And if they had funds behind them and if they could offer some crumbs, they would have been fine. So shout out to you, Athena Clark. Help her raise that money. And you know what, Athena Clark, I think with this podcast and with this network, you'll get more than the $600. So we support you. She has been nothing but a strong force. She's a very kind person, and she has a long road ahead of her, but she's going to catch fire too, and I believe she'll win.
Yeah. And then, so I don't know, man. I'm like flabbergasted at what just happened this morning. But like, again, like I just want to remind everybody, because we're talking Cuomo. Let's talk Cuomo, and we're gonna have another guest on here to talk about Cuomo. And Cuomo camp's not gonna be happy about that. So I'm sure we'll get a few cease and desist letters, but which we won't respond to. So he is Andrew Cuomo, 2020. He is King Cuomo.
I've seen that a few weeks ago. There was a very secret Hasidic wedding where 7,000 to 10,000 people attended, completely maskless. And I'm just wondering your reaction to this. Will there be consequences? And what's to stop this from happening over the holidays?
If that happened, I heard the report. If that happened, it was a blatant disregard of the law. It's illegal. It was also disrespectful to the people of New York. The law protects everybody. It protects you, but it also protects me. We went through this with weddings. We literally stopped the wedding a couple of nights before, which was going to be a very large wedding. If it turns out that because we stopped that wedding, the reaction was, well, we'll have a secret wedding. That would be really shocking and totally, I think, deceitful of the conversations that I had, because I had personal conversations with members of the community. But put that aside, I've been deceived many times. It's illegal, and the city should do a robust investigation. If 7,000 people went to a wedding, you can figure that out, right? That's the problem with the secret 7,000. It's hard to keep a secret. You know, they say the only way to keep a secret, tell no one. That's the only way to keep a secret. 7,000 people were there. It's going to be hard to keep that a secret.
So let's just go back to the United States Constitution for a second, in case anyone needs to. The Cuomo camp, let's remember the United States Constitution. So our country was founded on religious freedom, right? It's in the First Amendment, right? So what a wedding is a religious gathering. Before the eyes of God, you're joining with another human to start a family and push God's message further. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're a Jew. I don't care if you're a Christian. That's what a marriage is. It's a holy ceremony, a religious institution. It's a ceremony protected by the founding of this nation. And even if any authoritarian thinks it's not, it's God-given as per our Constitution. It acknowledges that. And anyone that steps over that, that's why they gave us the Second Amendment, because this is what America is based on, religious freedom. And you hear him saying they violated the law. They had a wedding. They gathered. They violated the law. No, he's wrong. He violated the law. They didn't violate the law. Governor Cuomo, who thought that he was royalty and became King Cuomo, he's the one that violated the law. And people want to forget this. And why did he do that? Because he got pressure. Because he's a coward. Because he's not a leader. And what happened as a result of his edicts, not his laws, what's happened as a result of him scaring you and demonizing you? Your parents died, your grandparents died, your friends died, your family died. And what? You're going to sit there and say, oh my God, it's so much scary to have a Mondani? No. Tell this bum, get out of the race. You lost already to the commie. You can't even beat a 33-year-old communist with no plan. You're done. Get out of here. You're an embarrassment. You went behind your friend Eric Adams' back, got him out of the race. Get out of the race and endorse Curtis Sliwa. I mean, it's that simple. Who in their right mind could vote for this guy? He suspended the United States Constitution, and people died as a result of it. Never mind the horrible things he passed into law.
I mean, his tone throughout the entire pandemic sounded like he's a centralized Communist Party leader. Like he's the authoritarian tyrant. I mean, you hear what he's saying, because it's far different what he says now. You have to list this. What did he say? It's illegal. It's illegal to have a wedding. So do we want to send our police officers or state troopers to go out and start breaking up weddings and locking people up? But guess what? The leadership that we have in the NYPD now, the leadership that you see in law enforcement in New York City, New York State, and throughout this entire country, because other people just like Cuomo, are the result of failed, weak leaders that pandered to someone like Cuomo, which is why we have a failed administration that we have now in furtherance with Eric Adams, because we had weak men who couldn't stand up and say, no, we're not going to send our cops to lock people up at a wedding and to make and enforce this social distancing. This is absolutely ridiculous, but that's who Andrew Cuomo is. So people have short-term memories. So, Jim, you have an opportunity. If you're watching this, these are things we have to discuss here. How can we get behind this? You embody integrity. You had a life of principle and morality. And Jim, I believe you're an intelligent man. Your life as a prosecutor, and I think that you're a good man. You have to understand that this was wrong. But we can't forget this. Yes, people make mistakes, but this is far more than mistakes. Ron Leyson says it best. If he's watching right now, he always said this. I have to say that. I got to give it to him. There's mistakes of the heart and there's mistakes of the mind. So did he do this with his heart? I mean, this is completely authoritarian. This violated the U.S. Constitution. It's your right. If you want to put yourself in a position that's going to get you sick or not, that's your decision. That's your decision. So, I mean, I'm just completely disappointed behind this. Jim Walden is an intelligent man. For him to say that he's going to get behind the front runner, well, then let's do it. The front runner is Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa is a man that's been battle tested on the streets of New York City. This is not someone that we need, that needs to go back in time so that he can propel himself. He's not looking to propel New York City. This is redemption time and a comeback time for Andrew Cuomo. That's what this is about, not about New York City. This is a complete disaster, John. I don't care if you're Jewish, who you are. We're talking about weddings. They wanted cops to go out there and break up groups. So I'm not doing that. We'll break up groups if they're committing crimes. We'll arrest them, but we're not going to break up groups just because they're in close proximity. We still have what's called the U.S. Constitution, but yet at the same token, we had BLM and all these other aggravating factors, paid agitators, destroying the entire city. Because I was there at these riots. They were unmasked. They were out there past curfews that Cuomo implemented, and yet those weren't enforced. But let's go break up weddings. Violate people's religious beliefs, but let people burn down buildings. That was Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, so just a little breaking news. We just had a major emergency declared in New York City. Building exploded in the Bronx, caused part of the building to collapse. According to the very early reports, it might not be a gas explosion. Currently, they have bomb sniffing dogs, and drones are out. So we don't know what's happening. So if any of you guys get that, please let us know. But right now, that's what happened. We're not sure about any injuries. It sounds like there's going to be, unfortunately. So let's just say a few prayers for them. So, so since Jim ran off, I thought, why not have New York City resident come on here and talk about Andrew Cuomo and what he thinks and his opinions. Let's bring up to the stage Inspector, retired Inspector, co-host of the Executive Inspector, Ron Leyson. Ron, what's up, brother?
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, you went to the bullpen. You had to go to the bullpen. Something the Mets couldn't do.
What'd you think about that, Ron? That he just did you expect to see an hour-long interview at least? Like, what did you think about that? At
least Jim was never one to rush off on any of our conversations, on any of our shows. I was shocked, to be honest with you. He answered up. He was vocal in his X account. He was vocal when you said that you were willing to civilly debate anyone on this topic. He said, "Sign me up." Right? His people reached out to you. And his people said, "Hey, Jim wants to come on and explain his position to you." We've had a respectful relationship with Jim all along in the beginning, hoping, a lot of the things that Jim had in his platform made a lot of sense. And we got behind, his public safety platform, his separate government agency to oversee integrity and try and bring integrity back into the city, which is something that this city needs. And, his argument fell apart so quickly because if you're gonna jump on the front, he's not saying he was gonna jump on the front runner against Mondami. He just said he was gonna support the front runner who is Mondami. So to me, it made no sense. And then 15 minutes in, you got to go. If he knew that he had to go early this morning, he's got a relationship with you guys. You guys talk offline all the time. He could have said, "Listen, I'm sorry. We got to reschedule for Friday or whatever the case may be. I can't stay on."
Yeah, he didn't tell us. And he didn't tell us right before we were about to. I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Where are you?" He's like, and he's like, "Oh, I only got 15 minutes." I'm like, "What do you mean you got 15 minutes?" He's like, "What? How long's the show?" I was like, "You don't know." You never even he would jump on sometimes. "Hey, could I come on to talk about?" "Yeah, come on." And he would stay way longer than 15. You don't know how long we go for,
right? In those times that he jumped on, we were about an hour and a half already into the show. He knows damn well Jim's an intelligent guy, but you know what? Everyone has a right to redeem themselves. Jim will come back here. We're going to have this conversation.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
We'll see because what's the conversation? We'll see. What's the conversation to have? He can't back up Cuomo's policy because Cuomo doesn't have policy.
Well, we tested his logic already. We tested his logic and it failed.
He says we'll hold him accountable. Why aren't we holding him accountable for what he's done? He's got a track record to hold him accountable on. That's the issue that I have. He has a track record that we can hold him accountable for by not voting him into office once again.
So, Ron, here's the thing. You're one of the few New Yorkers left that's still a resident of New York City from the Finest Unfiltered. In that position, based on Jim Walden's logic, right? Because he posed a question to us to deflect from the front runner logic that we presented, right? Because he didn't say front runner against
Ron's a
Mondani.
Mets fan, though, and you're talking about logic.
I'm just gonna
that's
say
a sound.
I have family that works for the organization and got me the hat for my birthday. That's all. and I wasn't expecting to jump on, so I threw a hat on so you don't got to see the few grays that are going in different directions.
Oh, just a few, right, Ron?
That's all I got left.
Let's talk about logic, right? His logic was to deflect from the question, right? Because the question was, he said front runner. He didn't say front runner in opposition to Mondani. That was that he pulled out of his ass the last second. But let's pose his logic. His logic was that, okay, what if you're stuck with Cuomo and Mondani? What if those are the two choices? Ron, what would you do? I said I wouldn't vote it. John would said the same thing. Well, I would abstain. What would you do? I'm
going to abstain also. I can't in good conscience. You know, we watched everything that he did. Not just. I mean, listen, it's personal. It's personal. The pandemic is very personal to both of you. It cost John his career. It upended his entire life. It cost you your father and your ability to properly say goodbye to your father. We've all been affected by the lockdown and everything else, right? But it's so beyond that. Let's go into just the bail. He's the father of bail reform, right? He's the one that repealed 50A, right? That stains you for life, Eric, right? If you didn't have, we've talked about this, right? He repealed 50A. If Eric Dim was not, a loving married man, he'd have no chance in a single life because everybody goes online and Googles people. You Google me, I'm going to pop up the screen, right? You Google Eric Dim and he's sticking his finger up somebody's butt, even though he was found not guilty in the trial room.
I just want to say I didn't do it.
I know, but you were found not guilty in the trial room, but yet CCRB still says that you did it.
And that's the screwed up part, is that the Civilian Complaint Review Board had zero evidence. They could see clearly that I didn't put my finger in someone's butt. If you listen to the intake, the actual perpetrator, keep in mind, perpetrator that made that complaint was in Rikers at the time when he called CCRB, and it was so matter of fact. It's like, hey, they beat me up, stuck their finger in my ass, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, no problem. Just took notes like it's so matter of fact. But here's the other failure, the weak leadership of the NYPD. Because if you get an allegation against you that you stuck your finger in someone's ass or you stuck a radio or something like that, the leadership doesn't say that's bullshit and support you. Like, oh my God, maybe he did. We got to investigate this. That's why we need new leadership. We need to revamp CCRB, and we need new leadership in the NYPD. We need to move forward.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you got Mondani yesterday going out saying that he wants to put together, a pack to try and get on the ballot to give CCRB full disciplinary control and take it away from the police commissioner.
Yep. And you got about 30 guys lined up to get in his administration already. And we know who you are, by the way. So we're just not going to blow you up, but it's absolutely disgusting. And if in fact he does win and you step up there, you will experience the wrath of this podcast like no other administration before. So, but listen, he is Andrew Cuomo. We're going to get on 50A, but he is Andrew Cuomo on defund the police. It wasn't, this is past. He said, it was a legitimate school of thought, but I don't support it. Like basically trying to reference that I put half a clip out there. It's like, no, the point is he said defund the police is a legitimate school of thought. And then he said defund the police are the three dumbest words ever entered in politics. So which one is it? If it was a legitimate school of thought, it couldn't have been that. So we've played you that clip. Here's another clip about defund the police with Andrew Cuomo. We want to talk about he's got a strong public safety. He's strong on public safety. He's strong on furthering crime.
This is a transformation moment across the country. People are saying it has to stop, we have to change, right? When they're saying defund the police, what are they saying? They're saying we want fundamental, basic change when it comes to policing. And they're right. They are right. They're saying Mr. Floyd, Mr. Garner, Mr. Louima, Mr. Diallo, enough is enough. So they're right. Our state legislative packages will do that. But I also believe you'll see that in every police department that is now operating. They understand they're operating in a different reality with different perceptions and different mandates. So I think you will see a shift all across police departments. I think police departments that don't hear it and don't get it are going to have a real problem. And the political leadership of that police department will have a problem, right? And those local mayors, you look at what's happening in Minneapolis now. So I think the mayor, as the elected official, they will get the message, and then it's going to be up to them whether or not their police department has done it. Now, I would like to see us actually go further than that, Zach.
He would like to see it go further than bail reform, further than the repeal of 50A, further than discovery flaw, further than raise the age, further than removing qualified immunity. He would like it to see it to go further. That he didn't support it. It sounds, not only did he support it, not only did he do the pom-poms, he walked it across the finish line. He actually was threatening Bill de Blasio to make sure that, in fact, he completely emasculated the New York City Police Department. That's what that messaging was.
He threatened the entire state. He threatened the entire state that if by April 1st you do not have a police reform plan on my desk, I am removing all funding to your city.
Well, let's talk about that. We talked about this yesterday. We had a great conversation talking about some of this stuff, right? And what was the pinnacle moment and what was pivotal about that is that with that reform and that deadline by April 1st, it was Andrew Cuomo that pushed for opposition to qualified immunity, which didn't protect police officers, which affects public safety. It wasn't, and it was on Andrew Cuomo's behalf. It was smart on his behalf because it wasn't him who aptly implemented it.
Right.
It was him who pushed for it. It was New York City Council that ended up pushing for opposition to qualified immunity. And what is that? Qualified immunity is protection for police officers when it comes to civil rights. And police officers do not have qualified immunity when it comes to stop, question, possibly frisk under People versus DeBoer. So these protections really hurt the city. I mean, I can't believe that we're getting behind Andrew Cuomo. I can't believe it.
And another thing that disappointed me with Jim was that he said that he was trying to defend Cuomo's actions in 2020, 2021, saying that was the entire push of the Democratic Party. So now that it didn't work, right? Now that you want to be the mayor for New York City, so now you're changing your tone, you're changing your position. So what are we doing? We're getting a flip-flopper like we have in office right now, right? I'm going to go with where I can get my support, not where my true beliefs are. How about we stand on principle, we stand on integrity, and we run on what we think is right, not what people want to hear.
No, it honestly, to me, like, their argument makes no sense. What they're doing now is that same fear that they used during COVID when they're like, oh my God, you could only do 50 people in a gathering. Oh, he's got 53. He's got 53 people. It's like, you got to be 6 feet apart. There's zero science behind all this. We all listened like a bunch of morons. Oh, put these cloth masks on that don't protect you from anything. Oh, take this thing that doesn't work. And we all listen to them like idiots. And what they're doing is they're like, forget Andrew Cuomo. Here's Mondani. Here's the big bad wolf. And honestly, I'm going to tell everybody on here right now, this is the perfect scenario for a Republican nominee to become the mayor in New York City. This is the perfect scenario. That's it. Like, that's it. It's very, very simple. If you stay together, Curtis Sliwa was the mayor in New York City. If you fracture your vote, if you're the voter that said, I will never vote for Andrew Cuomo because he's a murderer and he should be in jail. I will never vote for him because of COVID. I will never vote for him because of his stance on public safety. And now you're sitting there and saying, oh, I got to vote for Cuomo because of Mondani. Mondani's going to be worse. They gaslit you. They have you afraid. And you are actually ensuring a Mondani victory. You're splitting the vote. The Republican nominee is not dropping out, nor should they ever. What you need to do is get behind Curtis Sliwa. It's the only path to victory. If Andrew Cuomo had a path to victory, Mondani would be running in the Working Families Party, and we wouldn't even be talking about him. And you guys would be on here in this chat making fun of us for ever having him on.
And not only that, it just doesn't make sense. The bottom line is Curtis Sliwa was the only true New Yorker. That's what I've been trying to say. And in this is completely reflective. We've seen this playbook before. We just saw it. We saw Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And we saw Kamala Harris, her entire campaign was, well, look at Donald Trump. Look at Donald Trump. And we had the same conversation. Donald Trump wasn't the president. You were the vice president. You're the one to blame. And it's the same thing right here. We've seen the playbook. We see the playbook right now. Mondani was never the mayor. Cuomo was the governor of New York State. We already know his policies. We know his failures. The best prediction of the future is a reflection of the past. We know Mondani, his policies are reflective of Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo. They're all one and the same. Curtis Sliwa was the only choice. That's why I said, if according to Jim's logic, he's going with the front runner. So you actually believe those polls, those nonsense bullshit polls, because if we go by the true front runner, the only front runner to me is Curtis Sliwa, because the true New Yorkers are the ones that are behind Curtis. The people that are behind Mondani, to me, they're not the real New Yorkers, because any real New Yorker would not vote for Zohran Mamdani. It just doesn't make sense. Ron, you're a true New Yorker. You're still there. What are the people saying in your neighborhood?
You know what? It's so troublesome, and I have this conversation all the time. And I'm not huge into politics and everything else, and I don't like to get into a lot of political conversations. But you feel the need now. You have to champion for Curtis Sliwa. And it's so troubling to hear from everybody that, oh, yeah, but Curtis Sliwa doesn't have a chance. Well, shut up and vote. Voter apathy is a problem. Get out and vote. If everybody that says that I think Curtis Sliwa would be the best choice, but I don't think he can win, goes out and votes for Curtis Sliwa, we do have that chance. And you need... Every vote counts. And that's like the biggest thing that I keep saying is every vote counts. You have to stop saying, oh, he can't win, so I'm not going to vote for him. And that's what Jim is saying. Oh, I don't think he could win, so I'm not going to put his support behind him. How about stick to the integrity that you ran your campaign on? You ran your campaign on being a man of integrity, a man for change. So you had the minimalist of numbers in every poll, but yet you still fought forward and championed forward and went out and was able to raise money for your campaign and get matching funds and put out your platform because that was the integrity. You wanted change. Stick to your integrity. Stay with your integrity. I know you said, "Oh, I'm going to go for the front runner." And okay, well, who's the front runner? Mondani. But stick to your integrity. And stick with a man that could actually make change, that has a public safety platform. Cuomo's not running on his history, right? He can't because his history is so jaded to New Yorkers, right? Mondami's not running on his history because he doesn't have a history. You're going to take a man who's in the New York State Assembly, who's voted on 3 bills, who's so negative about public safety and demonized the police and has walked it back, but still will not come out and apologize for his statements on how racist and dangerous the police are to the public, because he still wants the DSA on his side. And if he walks that back completely, he's going to lose a lot of that vote.
But that's a legitimate school of thought, Ron. Like, that's a legitimate school of thought that Zohran Mamdani has. And that's what I don't understand of the demonization. How could Andrew Cuomo demonize Zohran Mamdani? He said that is a legitimate school of thought. This is, for those of you that aren't cops, 50A was a law that protected police officers' disciplinary records. Andrew Cuomo demanded that it be public information. Now, I have no problem with transparency. If you file a complaint against a cop, you should be able to see that. But what he did was enable bad actors to have your disciplinary record at a moment's notice, and then they target you after he emasculated you with the bail reform and all this stuff. So here's this girl. Watch what happens to her. She's a cop. And think about this. At the same time he was making cops' records public information, he was working hard to seal criminal records. So if you robbed somebody, if you violently assaulted somebody, if you had a minor form of sexual assault, don't worry. We want to get your record sealed. But hey, you're a cop and you messed up one time. No, your record's going to stay forever, which actually violates the law that they have in place now. Cops' records, even if they're arrested, because technically they're criminals, right? So why aren't their records sealed? No. Police records stay. Watch what happens. This is the atmosphere that was caused by Andrew Cuomo, and we're looking for him to save us from this atmosphere. Look, watch this.
Oh, look, I'm sorry, but it says guilty while on duty, wrongfully operating motor vehicle. She left, wrongfully refused to take the breathalyzer test, and she left the scene.
And you left the scene. You didn't want to take the breathalyzer? That's sad. You can't do that. You're breaking the law. How are you still a cop, though?
She went to take it to a rehab.
No, but still, does she have any lawsuits? Yeah, $123,000 she made last year. Yeah.
We got discipline.
When did she started?
2006.
Okay.
January 2020.
We can't drive it in that parties, you know. You gotta have like a guy to drive you around, you know.
We started in 2021. We made $58,700. That's it? Yeah.
That's it? That's it? Oh my God. But he wants to make fun of us, but meanwhile, that's all he made.
So this is what's going to continue to happen. This happened all throughout de Blasio, all throughout Adams. It will happen under a Cuomo. It will happen under a Mondani. The only way that we're going to restore public confidence in the New York City Police Department is if you vote for Curtis Sliwa, because the cops are going to be trained on what harassment of a police officer is, and we're not going to allow things like this to happen, as well as the CCRB board will be fair and balanced and actually care about the truth, which is not going to happen under an Andrew Cuomo. And how do we know that? Look at who he appointed on the parole board. Look at who he appointed on the parole board that are letting cop killers out time and time again. Who do you think he's going to appoint on the CCRB board? We don't know, right? But I'll tell you what. Let Curtis Sliwa, I guarantee you that CCRB board, they're not going to be bootlickers. If a cop does something wrong, they'll get punished. If a cop didn't do anything wrong, then they'll be fine, because they'll be ultimately seeking the truth instead of just trying to hang cops like Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, Zohran Mondani, Bill de Blasio, like all these lefties have been seeking to do. And what happens? Your quality of life goes down. Public safety in New York City goes down.
And as Cuomo would say, let's take that further. Let's take that further. You talked about the appointments at CCRB that come from the mayor, which is an epic fail. People that have just a total bias and disdain towards policing. Let's go even further with that. Let's talk about the NYPD leadership. The NYPD leadership under Eric Adams is weak, inept, inadequate. They're self-serving. We'll get the same thing from Andrew Cuomo. We'll get the same thing from Zohran Mamdani, which means a lack of a support system, which attributes to get a female police officer in that predicament where she's vulnerable and abused and ridiculed because there's no system in place, there's no vision, there's no messaging to the police officers, the rank and file, of how to handle a situation like that. And that's why the front runner, which is not just a public official, he's a crime fighter. That's Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa will get behind the cops. And you know how he'll get behind the cops? By getting adequate, competent leadership that from the NYPD, within the NYPD, to support police officers like that and to be combative to the Civilian Complaint Review Board by appointing the correct people that are neutral in CCRB, that want the truth. Not people that are biased towards police officers or pro-police, but people that want the truth, that allow investigations to get engineered towards the truth. That's why we're saying, listen, I feel like this is turning to a complete Curtis Sliwa campaign, but it has to be because Jim Walden came on here and within 15 minutes, to me, it was just a drive-by. It was a drive-by for sound bites, and we didn't get a full opportunity to get into this conversation about why he's endorsing Andrew Cuomo. And let's not just talk about Mamdani. Let's talk about Andrew Cuomo, the past and the reflection into the future, and why would we support Cuomo instead of just talking about polls and numbers and getting behind the front runner. Because if we talk about numbers and polls and who's the front runner, I think we established it here today. And it's Curtis Sliwa.
So yeah. Just real quick before you go, Ron, just that explosion that happened in the Bronx, it looks like it was an incinerator shaft that exploded. So right now there's no injuries being reported, but that's what happened. So it's not like it doesn't appear to be at this time. So we'll keep you informed, but that's what it appears like. What were you going to say, Ron?
No, I was going to say that on this entire platform across all of our shows, not one person is against transparency. Not one person is against oversight and holding accountable any misconduct by any officers at any rank. And it's, you guys get called out all the time. Oh, you're anti-cop, you're against the cops, because you call out when cops do something wrong, right? So it's like, where's the dichotomy? If we're criticizing when cops do wrong, we're highlighting when cops do wrong so that other cops don't do the same thing, right? We're not sitting here and we're not championing and every cop is right. It's like people keep talking about the union delegates in the chat, right? You got those delegates in the command. There's always that one delegate that nobody could do wrong, right? That's not us. That's not us. We're going to call bullshit, but we're also going to stick up for cops when it's right. And we're going to highlight that, listen, this is from our perspective, right? From being there. That's why we say that the police commissioner should have uniform law enforcement experience, because they have to understand what it's like to walk in those shoes and to be in law enforcement, to actually engage in the uniformed services, not just be an administrator, in order to properly back up their officers. And with Jim, listen, as Patty would say, no stamina today.
No, yeah, Jim's stamina. And the thing is, like, it's we're not running the campaign for Curtis Sliwa, but like at the same time, dude, I mean, like, the guy sets up for a show, comes on here to talk about Andrew Cuomo, and he doesn't. And Pat Donahue, nobody's begging him to come back on here. Believe me, I don't beg anybody to come on here. None of us do. You reach out if it's relevant, if the topic's relevant, we bring you on. You know who we want on? We want guys like you. Like, we want retired guys. We want guys to come on here and share their stories. Those are the only people that we really reach out to come on the show. Other than that, you want to come on, reach out to us. Especially and I think that about summed it up. Why is he voting for Andrew Cuomo? Oh, the polls. The same polls. That's why he's voting, because of the polls. The same polls that told you that Andrew Cuomo was going to destroy Zohran Mamdani, and it was actually the complete opposite. So he has. I don't think he'll come back on, and I don't think if he does, he's going to have a strong argument. And like you said, his demeanor was totally different. Anything else? We got a lot of NYPD news we could cover. Anything? No,
I just want to say that Jim Walden, we call it like it is. That doesn't mean that we still won't have respect for each other. We'll have conversations moving forward. My money is that Jim Walden won't come back. Obviously, at this point, wouldn't make sense for him to come back and try to. The only thing he could do is dig a bigger hole. But I think it was a complete drive-by for sound bites and have an opportunity just to plug Cuomo a little bit. I just think it turned out to be an epic fail. But unfortunately, that's what we come down to. But still, hey, listen, it makes for a great episode because you got an opportunity to test logic. And the logic is, let's push on Mamdani because we can't articulate why Cuomo is the man for the job. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't define logic. So with that being said, I think this is a great video to segue into. It shows that we are fair, right? We're talking about why cops need support. And when we go back to that female police officer being heckled, police officers shouldn't be in that predicament. There should be complete vision and messaging on how police officers should handle that. Because those agitators trying to disarm that police officer, that inhibits public safety. At the same token, we call out what's fair And going into this video right now, segued into a detective that just completely dishonored his uniform, dishonored himself, and the entire NYPD is a reflection of failed leadership within the NYPD. And is another exemplary reflection of what I've been telling you. There's a 3-tiered system in the NYPD. There's tier 1, that's your upper echelon that gets their white shirt immunity. There's tier 3, that's your general population. That's John, myself, Ron, Rob, Sal, Marlon. And here is a detective that is part of general of tier 2 that gets favoritism, cronyism, and nepotism. John, let's get into it.
Yeah. So, all right. So this photo comes out of the Ryder Cup. So a couple of things, right? Like there's a lot of stuff floating around, but I know him and I know people that know him and I know the exact situation. So, a lot of people are beating me up online for putting this out, but full disclosure, I had the information the day prior when it actually happened. He was suspended that same day, and I didn't put it on until the next day. And I put out the thing really to make fun of him. And then I heard the entire story. So this detective, who's also president of the Asian Jade Society in the NYPD, which is a fraternal, obviously, for Asian police officers, right? It's a fraternal organization. I forget the kid's name, whatever it is, doesn't matter. He shows up at the Ryder Cup. The rumor is that he was there 2 days in a row, and he's dressed the way he's dressed. He's in this body armor. He's got his gun on him. And when he's approached by law enforcement and Secret Service, they're like, what are you doing here? And it's being alleged that he said he was on the Trump detail. So he's guilty of a lot of crimes here, trespassing, all this stuff. Then we come to find out the guy's out sick. And it's like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? And then boom, he's suspended. And now, so, everybody's making fun of him. There's memes flying all over. So I chime in. And then a lot of people reach out to me, right? And they're like, yo, this dude had a stroke. He's out sick for the stroke. And he's totally normal. And he's not a buff at all. Well, I don't want to say he's not a buff, but like this is not conduct becoming of him. And, we think it has something to do with the medicine because it just sounds weird. And I think that's why they didn't arrest him, because I believe he was acting weird that day. And so then that makes sense. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it isn't true. I'm just know what I'm being told. 100% he was out sick and he had a massive either heart attack or stroke, some type of event. And he's out sick as a result of that. And if that case is the truth, then I go from swinging blame to him to swinging blame to the medical district, to his supervisors, to the health and wellness, saying, are we monitoring our employees? Why does he have a gun? Like what's going on here? And then if that's the case, that he had a mental episode, is suspension the right scenario there? So I don't know. What do you guys think about all that? Ron, what are you thinking about this off the bat?
Off the bat is I don't know. It's like it's so left field. It's like, look at him. He's not even like, he's wearing shorts and sneakers with a tactical vest with his cuffs hanging on the side. I don't see his gun. You're saying he has his gun on?
It looks like it's right up there to the left of. It looks like his gun is on his right side, right here.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, but
in a weird spot, by the way, like in some tactical spot.
I don't know. I mean, again, you'd have to evaluate him. I mean, he's not going to get. He wasn't arrested, right? So he wasn't suspended because he was arrested. He was suspended because of the circumstance, which means there had to be an investigation, which means a duty captain, duty inspector, and a duty chief had to get involved. And like you're saying, now if I'm investigating him, right, and I'm talking to him and I'm that duty inspector, because on a job like this, you're not going to leave it up to the captain. This is just way too big, right? This is the duty chief is actually going to come out and be sitting down with you. And if you're talking to this guy and he's just not there, like we're saying, like you're possibly saying, like he had a medical episode that affected his thought process and everything else, then there's other ways of handling it where you could take his firearms and you could do a non-disciplinary removal and send him for some type of evaluation. So, but I don't know. I don't know what the investigation revealed. I don't know what he said. I don't know if he was just trying to avoid the $10,000 ticket to go watch the Ryder Cup, because I think the minimum ticket to get on there is like $10,000. I don't know. I don't know.
So I'm going to say this, right? I usually give people the benefit of the doubt, but because my son battled cancer for almost a year and a half, unfortunately, I became as far as you could become a doctor without going through actual schooling. I read constantly, doing research. And what I know about strokes is that someone can have delirium or delirious episodes within several hours of a stroke, but usually not long term. So based on this, we don't know what happened, but based on just what I know and what I see, I think he was completely aware that he was doing wrong here because it was 2 days in a row. So I think that this was full intention. And now if there is some mental aspect to it, I'll understand. But based on what I see, I think he clearly knew what he was doing and took advantage of it. That's my assessment at this point.
So, and then based on that, if that is the case, like Ron, what would you think? Like, if it in fact is intentional, and I'm not saying just as a result of the stroke, because obviously medicines could play a role in your mental state as well. But like, let's pretend he didn't. Let's pretend that it has nothing to do with any of that. What would your assessment be? And FYI, I don't put this past cops to do this because I've heard crazy things like this happening before. Like, so let's say there is no medical episode. There's no medical episode. He shows up at the Ryder Cup to not pay the ticket. He shows up in this quasi-secret service. He starts LARPing, basically. For those of you who don't know what LARPing is, it's live action role play. So he's role playing to be a Secret Service agent. And I don't know. And he's just buffing out there and he's trying to get in. And then, boom, Secret Service, New York State Troopers are like, who the hell are you? You're not identified. We properly identify people at the scene. I mean, the guy is a detective. So, I mean, I don't know what you're thinking if you never did a major detail before, especially when the president there or high-ranking people. Like, obviously, there's a credentialing
he's second grade
area. And he's a second grader.
He's second grade because he's the president of Asian Jade. Come on.
So, so let's just say that it's not a medical episode. Then I fully support the suspension. And honestly, I question why he wasn't arrested. You know what I mean? Because he broke a lot of laws here.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. Again, hardcore is breaking my chops in the chat saying, word salad. I'm not being word salad. I'm telling you, I'm just telling you that this is, if I was conducting the investigation, these are the things that I'm looking at. And Eric, to your point, if he had a major stroke, it would affect more than his thought process, because it really strokes. You still have your capacities, but you lose motor skills, right?
Right.
And what you're talking about is a mini stroke, a transient ischemic attack, a TIA, where that temporarily affects you, right? And it's not going to affect you over a long term like this. And like John says, the reality is it probably was an intentional act. And again, you're not going to know until you're there and you're doing the investigation. Now, as far as arresting him, that's completely on whether it's going to be the federal authorities, the Secret Service, or the Nassau County Police Department. The NYPD has no say in whether he's going to be arrested or not. So,
I'm saying that based on my observations, I think it was an intentional act.
No, I agree. I agree. And so as far as the NYPD's actions, then they're proper. He gets suspended and he'll face internal department charges, whether he's going to be terminated or whatever the case may be for it. As far as legally, that's outside New York City. So we have no say in what's going to happen with that, at all. That's completely on the Nassau County Police Department and or the Secret Service, because this all happened the day Trump was there, right? So.
Well, I don't believe that we have no say. I believe that nepotism, cronyism works at all angles, and it works outside the police department. I'm sure if this was intentional, like I said, I believe it was intentional based on what we see. And if it was intentional, because he's the president of the Asian Jade Society and has the right connections, I'm sure that would help out on him not being arrested any further. Listen, if he did have a stroke, I feel sorry for him, but just based on his appearance of what I see, I don't see any his face sloping. I don't see any behavioral indicators that he's still suffering from that stroke. So based on those, I do think this was intentional. If it wasn't, I apologize for that. But based on what I see, I think he was full aware. The fact that he did it 2 days in a row, he knew exactly where to go. He knew to lie about it. He knew to cover up for it. It doesn't seem right to me. But I do believe that his position will help him And if we're right, it is helping him now.
Yeah, Rob's trying to jump in there.
Put him
in. Clearly, Cad should have picked up on this. Let's not go there. But no, yeah, I agree with you. And listen, courtesies to law enforcement are courtesies to law enforcement, but not when you're violating all these laws. I mean, this is a security breach. You know, this is kind of egg on their face also. You know, so I don't understand, you know. Yeah, I mean, I know him. I know him from my time on the job and you know, dealing with the Asian Jade. But
Ron, did you
again,
get promoted?
like John says, we're not going to defend the behavior because we know somebody. We're gonna all transparency, right? We're gonna call bullshit. And to this, I don't see how a medical episode is contributing to this, unless he had some type of mental breakdown. That's a different issue. I can't attribute this to any type of stroke or TIA or anything else. Listen, you thought you were going to be slick and you got caught. That's the way I see it. And now there's going to be serious consequences. And I think there should be legal consequences. But again, it's an outside jurisdiction.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, they made a decision not to, so that's it. Like, you know what I mean? They you know, the Secret Service and the state police made a decision they weren't going to arrest, and that's it. Like, so it's on them. The discipline comes in, PD suspends them. So sounds like they didn't get his story either. Like, you know, they were like, you know, it sounds like there was a, you know, and you know, there was some deception there, telling the state troopers and Secret Service you're on the Trump detail. I mean, again, I question it. Like, should you have it? Like, should you have a detective shield? Should you be a second grader? Like, what the hell are you thinking? You know, and I mean, I get trying to tin your way in, like, and like by tin your way in, what I mean to people is like trying to get into an event because you're a cop. Pretending that you're at work that day to get in, that's a different scenario. You know what I mean? That's a totally different scenario. Is it right that people try to tin their way into places? No, but it's just humanity. People do that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. I used to go to the meatpacking district, cut the line, be like, hey, what's up, boys? And I would walk in. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. I did it.
What place were you going to with the meatpacking?
I don't know. I went to everywhere. Like, I used to do it all the time, dude. You know?
There's courtesies and everything else. Like, listen, one of the biggest details in the country is the U.S. Open. And I worked at every year I was in Queens North. And there's courtesies that are given, you know, but mostly it's like parking and things like that, you know, but it's an outside venue. It's like you're not giving tickets away. You don't have tickets to give away, you know. But like you said, this guy is like they're saying in here, he's cosplaying, you know. And like you said, John, whatever that was, sussing, whatever it is, LARPing, right? You know, it shows, you know. Should he be a detective? Should he even be an NYPD employee? At this point, you know, if he's going to have that poor of a judgment to do, you know, it's a matter of, listen, the suspension I think was 100% on point at that point, you know, and there's a difference between modification. You know, modification, you're taking somebody's firearm away, you know, to give the job an opportunity to further investigate the suitability for employment, right, and for charges and discipline. Whereas when you're suspending somebody, you're taking away all their authority and everything else because of an egregious act, which I think is fitting in this place.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, I've said this for years, and I'll say it now. I probably get stuff thrown at me for saying it. I think cops should get some perks. Every job, if you work at Best Buy, you get a discount. You work at Home Depot, whatever job you have, you get some type of perks. There should be some perks, but this is far beyond a perk. And even with that said, I have no problem if they make the decision not to arrest him. What I'm saying is it should be a level playing field. If that was Eric Dim or that was John McCarry or Ron Leyson, are we going to get the same amenities because he's the president of the Asian Jade Society, he's tier 2 with the NYPD, or we're going to be general population and we're going to get slammed? That's what I'm saying. I have no problem. Listen, you don't want to arrest the guy? That's cool. He made a mistake. He did something stupid. He owns up to it. He gets his smack. But the next guy, if that was Sal Greco got terminated for what? Marlon Bethel got terminated for what? That's why when we make comparisons, That's the problem. But ultimately, if it was a level playing field, I wouldn't care. And that's, I mean, John, am I right or wrong? Would you care if it's a level playing? I don't care.
No, and I think, that's we were talking about that offline the other day. Like, that's a big part of the morale thing. It's like, like Kelly's error, like the guy was a disciplinarian, you know what I mean? But like everyone kind of didn't have bad morale about it because you're like, whatever. Everybody gets hammered when they do something wrong. Like, you got caught. All right, well, I messed up. I'm a big boy. I got to put my big boy pants on. You know what I mean? I got to take my lumps now. I did what I did, and that's it.
And he held the executives accountable as well.
And he held and then when you fast forward and now you're in these different police commissioners, what you're seeing is like we put the blinders on for all the politically connected and the executives, and the high-ranking executives, the political connected executives, and everybody else is getting destroyed. And it's like, wait, you're destroying me because I showed up 15 minutes late to a detail, but this dude stole millions of dollars. He was running a prostitution ring. These dudes were shaking down businesses. Those guys were stealing overtime. And that's fine. No. We're gonna worry about the guy that showed up 15 minutes late to a detail and destroy his life. You know, and that's what's happening. It's like nothing makes sense, But what do you guys think about his outfit though? Like, if you were gonna dress up and pretend to be Secret Service, are you going this way? Like, I mean, but to be fair.
Do a little investigation on what they might look like.
But to be fair, seriously, like and all jokes aside, like he had a medical episode that we know about, right? Well, I'm sure he's on medication as a result of it. I mean, I think besides just discipline, like there has to be some type of mental evaluation. Like, what are you doing? Like, explain to me like what happened when you woke up that morning. Now, if you're like, oh, I'm a scammer and I just wanted to go on the Ryder Cup. Okay. Okay, I'm okay. But I want to hear, like Eric likes to say, I don't want to hear the logic, any Met fans, but like, I want to hear the logic. I don't want to hear the logic of the Cuomo guys, But like, I want to hear what his logic was. Like, because I think, maybe again, not to go back on the psych, Ron, but maybe we're dropping the ball here,
Ron, did you hire him, Ron?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it was when I was there.
Are you sure?
But you never know. Listen, I was there 2016 to 2018. Could he be a second-grade detective by now? Absolutely.
You can be a second-grade detective with 3 years on the job. Just like Juanita Holmes kids.
Yeah. Sick.
He's got 15 years on the job. He's not a kid.
Not at all. Not at all. Second grade detective and president of a prolific fraternal organization within inside of the NYPD. I mean, they got a lot of pull. They got a lot of pull throughout the community, and they got a lot of pull within the department.
And listen, people are jumping in the chat about how the NYPD had influence over whether he was arrested or not. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know. Would I be surprised if phone calls were made to say, "Hey, listen, we'll take care of this internally"? I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't believe that would be right either, though, because like you said, it's got to be. Would that phone call have been made by for anybody else?
But I think there should be. I mean, they're supposed to be, right? If we have qualified psychologists to do the job, but there should be a mental health evaluation in every case of discipline that's so egregious like that, just to find out where is someone's head, because maybe he is going through some mental issues. Maybe it's not necessarily the stroke. Maybe there's something else that caused him to, maybe he's going through a divorce or something, or some financial issues that is causing him to make stupid decisions. That doesn't mean he won't be held accountable, but it's important to find out the root causes of why people do things, rather than just implement discipline. But just based on what I see, it just doesn't look good. I don't know. I think this guy knew what he was doing. I really do.
I don't know. Popeye Dammit says he transferred himself to the Ryder Cup. All good here. Mikey G said he did nothing wrong. And Mikey G also points out it's the same phone call that transferred the girl from the 4-4 to the 5.
Rob and I will be talking about that tonight on the show.
Yeah. We talked about that already. Some girl, rookie, like fresh out of the academy, transferred herself from the 4-4 to the 5-2. I mean, listen, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it. it's just, to me, it's a little off the wall. It's a little off the wall to go LARPing. It really is. Like, to play dress up. Like, it's one thing to just go there and try to get your way in, which you probably could do easily. It's another thing to be LARPing about it. Did you guys see this? This is another thing that just came out. Jasmine Ray, she's director of some sports program for the mayor's office. So, pretty girl. Check her out on Instagram. You could pre-order her book, Political Humanity. If you could see, those are her hands and what appears to be Eric Adams' head and the city skyline coming off his back. And supposedly this is going to be a tell-all book about what happens behind the scenes at City Hall with Eric Adams. Now, I got to be the first to say I'm shocked because I thought he was gay. I mean, I still haven't ruled out that he likes dudes. I think that he does like dudes, but like, and that's fine. So confirmed bi now, I'm thinking. Like, confirmed bisexual. For me,
at least I'll say, I mean, based on the book, I haven't read it yet because it's coming out, but it looks like he has good taste in women, though. She wasn't bad looking, so at least I'll give Eric Adams that. He's a Norwegian rat brother who can survive anything. I don't know if he's gay or not, but you think what do you think? It's the ankle bracelet gave it away?
No, I just think I I'm not gonna say what I know, but I know things, and like like. I think that that's my opinion. I always thought he liked dudes. Like, that's what I see. He's feminine. It's the ankle bracelet. It's the getting the nails done. It's the going to the salons. It's the weird things about him. It's the way he talks. It's his agitation towards when there's any type of confrontation in front of him. I just always thought he liked dudes. Like, that's my opinion. And so now if this comes out and she says that she was in a romantic relationship with him, for me, I'll say, okay, then he appears to be bi to me. Nothing wrong with it. I don't care your sexual preference. I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
I don't care either, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, I've worked with people that were married their entire careers and they divorced their wives and they end up getting a boyfriend after 20 years of police work. I've worked with a couple of guys like that. So you never know. I mean, it doesn't matter. But she wasn't bad looking, so I'm curious on her book. But Eric Adams, again, I'm curious what she says also. I want to know if she thinks he's a Norwegian rat too, because that guy survives anything.
I pre-ordered it. Go just Google Political Humanity. It's $9.99. So I'm looking forward to it. So I don't know the details what's in there. I don't know. Some people are saying that maybe he has a secret kid. Some people are saying he was in a sexual relationship. I don't know what's in there. I'm curious to see, but it's weird, man. So we were paying, and if they did have it, just think again, it's just another person on Eric Adams' payroll that was romantically involved or personally involved with him, which is another theft of taxpayer funds that he should be arrested for.
Yeah, and listen, I'm really curious if she talks about private contracts or how they're getting money. I want to know if there's stuff about crumbs in that book. That's what I want. I could care less about his sexual orientation. I really want to know what she knows about what was going on the inside. And obviously, she's trying to promote herself right now and promote this book. I wonder if she was working with the feds at all. I'm curious. Probably not, but who knows? What do you read? Your comments about you in the meat packet?
Yes. Hey, listen, I never thought, I'm married now, but you guys don't know what happened.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. You never know, man. I worked with a guy, great guy, such a nice guy, and after 20 years, he left his wife and he's got a boyfriend. I had no idea. You never know. These things happen, but I don't know. Be yourself. Be yourself. Don't do that to somebody. Anyway, Ron, what do you think? New York City, man. Jim Walden did a drive-by today. Mamdani's the front runner. Going for Cuomo. This is crazy.
It is. It's insane. It's really tough. As far as the book, I just hope, listen, I think there's been so much overtly done that's so obvious to everybody about everyone that he's appointed and surrounded himself with, how it's infected the NYPD in the same manner of his appointments. And it's been the downfall. We need such a change, and we need to reinstore integrity. If this book is going to back it up and have somebody from the inside say it, what we all pretty much already know. Listen, nobody's been convicted. Well, It's just a mess. It's a mess, and we need a change. And the only person that can bring that change in integrity back, I think, is Curtis Sliwa. That's why we on the executive perspective officially endorsed Curtis Sliwa. I know you guys, obviously, from our conversations and everything else, we're backing Curtis Sliwa on the Finest Unfiltered Network. Sal's talked about it, and everybody else. So I'm not going to speak for Tom and Pete, but the only hope, I think, for change, for positive change. And like John said, there is a chance here and a time now where, a Republican can get back in. We had to bottom out with 35,000, 3,500 homicides in order for Giuliani to squeak in, right? And get in there and go there on his law enforcement and his public safety platform. We've bottomed out, maybe not in homicides and like excessive crime numbers. I mean, we talk about what the crime is up and perception versus reality and everything else, but I think this city has bottomed out in another way with its lack of integrity, with its the administration is not looking out for what's best for the people of the city of New York. The leaders of the police department are not looking out for the membership of the police department and doing what's right for the people of the city of New York. And that's what we raised our right hand and we swore to do. And it's just not happening now. And we need major change.
Well, that's reality. So let's be honest. Let's say that change doesn't come. It's unfortunate. We always have to prepare for the worst to brace for impact. If Zohran Mamdani does in fact win, what is your message right now to the police department, being that you were a former executive, especially some of these executives that have 20 years on the job, they have experience, and maybe they want to stay to 25. What is your message to them?
Listen, it's a very difficult situation, right? Because as a police department, we're sworn to protect, and preserve the law. But where the direction of the police department goes, you have to follow, right? You have to, as long as it's not in an illegal manner. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to be a part of that? Because really, what authority do you have if you're a 20 or 25-year executive on the police department to really make that change? If the policy comes from City Hall that we're not going to enforce low-level crimes, you can't go out and tell your people to go lock up these people that the policy is now saying not to lock up, right? It's a very precarious position that we're in. And as far as the rank and file, we don't agree with almost everything Pat Hendry has to say, right? But, he put out a statement saying that it's the end of policing if you're going to give the CCRB the full authority for discipline, because we see how biased they are. We see how weaponized they are against the police. We see how they reverse engineer their investigations, and it's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until I'm just totally overwhelmed with evidence so I can say, okay, I can't disprove it. I'm not even going to say you're innocent, right? So now you're going to give them the authority where you're only allowed to have 3 people on a board of 15 that have any kind of law enforcement background. So you have people that don't understand and don't see through the lens of a police officer of what these actions are, have never been in these situations, and now you want to give them the authority to go frame by frame by frame in a body-worn camera situation and not view things from a real life and real time situation. It's frightening. And even before I left, you saw it was going that way, Eric. And I came down and I sat with you and your guys, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys are still going out there doing God's work the way you are when they're taking away qualified immunity and everything is stacked up against you, and you and your guys were still going out and doing God's work and taking guns off the street in the Bronx and
I can show you my 58. It reflects it.
You know, listen, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm a champion for Eric Dim. Listen, we weren't friends on the job. You worked for me in my borough. In one of my PSAs, I got to know you from your work and your work ethic. I got to know you from the job that your teams did and the positive changes that you affected. I personally, as your borough commander, watched every one of your body-worn cameras associated to your CCRBs. And that's why I was, with a good conscience and was able to put my head on the pillow every night, had no problem, champion, for you when I had to get on meetings for the the stat meetings. When it came time to put in for discretionary promotions, to personally speak up to the upper echelon on your behalf, because, I watched it. It's like, you can't take a snapshot on paper and look at somebody and say, hey, this is the person. You have to put it into context. And the CCRB can't put it into context because they don't know the context.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, so you have all these guys jockeying for positions right now in the Mondani administration and in the Cuomo administration. And honestly, I'm disgusted by it because, call after call, oh, this guy's the police. I'm like, no. Don't tell me this guy's the police. This guy was the police. I'll say, okay, yeah, this guy was the police. But if you're willing to go out there and work for these people, and that includes the Eric Adams and the Bill de Blasio, like, I'm not beating around the bush. These guys were horrible people. If you're looking for a political appointment, you are no longer the police. You no longer support the police. You are a politician. You're pushing down this left-wing ideology, this racist ideology that they put in there, and these lies. And I'm honestly, like, I'm so over. I don't even care. Like, if Mondani wins, I don't care who his appointment is. They're horrible, in my opinion. And they deserve the full weight of this podcast on it. I don't care what their career was. I don't care if it was me, if it was Eric, if it was you. I don't care who it is. Like, you sold your soul. Like, that's it, bro. Like, you sold out. And so, like, I was listening to, someone sent me the interview with John Schell and Sid Rosenberg. And so John Schell was on there and he's like, I got to remain apolitical, which he's right, which for the first time, congratulations, John, you got a few months left and now you want to remain apolitical. But, so he finally figured it out. So he's like, I'm not going to endorse anyone. I'm not going to talk politics, even though he was talking politics. And he's like, I'm here to support the cops. And it's like, yeah, but at what point are you just like, you can't no longer support the cops? Like, I'm sorry, when you were Bill Bratton and they were pushing the whole narrative, we're just going to investigate major crimes at that point. That's not systemically against everything you believe in. That's not systemically against your entire ethos. You know that doesn't work. And then you're watching cops being demonized. And not only are you not supporting the cops, when the pressure's on you, you're going along with that. Jimmy O'Neill, Danny Pantaleo. Again, Danny Pantaleo followed his training. He did nothing wrong. He wasn't committed to no crime. He wasn't prosecuted for any crime. He wasn't arrested for any crime. He followed his training to a T, and he was terminated. And same thing, like, Eric was a sacrificial lamb for Shea, right? You went out there, you got guns for Dermot Shea. Where's Dermot Shea? He's making $600,000 working for somebody else. And where are you, Eric? You can't get a job in policing ever again. You're and now what are they doing? They're demonizing you. The community fired you. It's like, no, you sent me out there. I believe
never adapted.
Yeah, I believed in the mission, and you sacrificed me. And there's thousands of Eric Dims in the New York City Police Department right now. They're sacrificial lambs.
I just want to say, I don't want to stop the conversation, but great point. Crazy 10-7 just brought up. Speaking of good men, Joe Herbert passed away, who was on Tun Tavern. I'm sorry, Tun Tavern. Every time I think of 10-4 Tavern, our podcast, I say Tun Tavern. That's because that's where the Marine Corps started. So it confused me all the time. Tun Tavern was a bar where the Marine Corps started. Pretty cool, by the way. Joe Herbert passed away. What a nice man. If you have an opportunity, please watch. His career was memorialized on the show on the Finest Unfiltered called 10-4 Tavern. If you haven't tuned yet, Tom Joyce and Pete Faselli have a great conversation with Joe Herbert. And what I was so impressed by is if you listen to him, he talked about the most proudest moment being in the NYPD. Think about this. You ready? The most proudest moment. He was a chief. His most proudest moment was getting promoted to detective. And it was so authentic and so genuine that he got teary-eyed and choked up. So if you think it's not a big deal that people get promoted to detective with nepotism, cronyism, to the failed leadership out there, it is a big deal, because here was a man who was a former chief. That was the moment that was so iconic in his career. Joe Herbert, I salute you, sir. God bless you. God bless your family. What a nice man. When I saw that episode, I was like, wow, that guy is a nice guy. Joe Herbert, God bless you, man. Ron, what do you think?
Sad day. I knew Joe Herbert in passing. Got to know him, like you said, much better watching the 10-4 Tavern with Pete and Tom. We were on a call last night when the news came across, actually while the 10-4 Tavern was on air. Sad situation, and he had some medical issues that he was going through. We spoke about it briefly on the show, and unfortunately, he recently lost his wife. So now they're reunited again in heaven. So I believe in that. And he was the police. You talk about people that were really out there and did it. Such a humble man who affected such a positive change and did so much in his life with the Zodiac case and everything else. And just and like you said, yeah, it touched me too when he got emotional. He got choked up, saying, when you had so many accolades in your life, and you've accomplished as much as you accomplished in your professional career as Joe Herbert did, and to have still touch you that much, to get emotional in retirement about the day you became a detective, says so much about you as a person. So, God rest his soul. Prayers to his family and his loved ones.
Yeah, terrible, man. That was really sad to hear, man. So, and someone said it here that Joe Herbert was the police, right? So, rest in peace, Chief. Great episode, man. I enjoyed a lot hearing about him. But yeah, it's sad, So, again, and it's just a reminder for all of us. We're all short for this world, man. We're here for a good time, not a long time. So, I mean, we gotta. What are we doing while we're here? I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not gonna simp for Andrew Cuomo. That's exactly. You're never gonna remember me as that. You could paint us as ever you want. You guys helped. You helped Mondani get elected. You helped this. You helped that. Okay, whatever you want. We're racist because we told the truth. We're anti-Semitic because we spoke about something. We anti-Muslim because we spoke about something. We're anti-Christian. We hate, we're leftist. We're rightist. It is what it is. We're here for a short time. So, rest in peace to the chief. We apologize that Jim jumped out on us this morning. We don't know what that was. We hope that, you guys enjoyed the 15 minutes that he was on. And honestly, that's a reflection of the Cuomo campaign. That's the arguments for the Cuomo campaign. It's all gaslighting. It's all fear mongering. And again, I'm just going to push it one more time. It's that I think, not only should you be staying principled and voting for Curtis Sliwa, but you also need to help out these city council candidates. Please, this would be huge if we could get a grassroots candidate like Athena Clark to receive matching funds. We could actually push up against this leftist machine. Mercedes Narcisse is receiving hundreds of $1,000s from lobbyists, from Uber, from all these people that want to bring in all of this insane stuff. And she's not holding the line for anything. She's pushing down further on the anti-police stuff. She was the one who sponsored the bill to end jaywalking. Please get out there. And even $5, $10, $20, she just needs $600 to make matching funds. Please go to Athena Clark's website. If you have anything, even if it's $1, just do it. It's 8-1. She just needs $600. So if you guys could do that. One more piece of legislation that's coming down the pipeline before we jump off. I know we went a little long today, but this is something that kind of like I was a little weirded out watching it last night. So, we talk about civil liberties on here. We talk about violations of the Fourth Amendment constantly. So another way that you're being tracked today is your gait. What's your gait? It's the way you walk. It's the way you carry yourself. So council member, I forget who it is. I believe it's Carlina Rivera. I could be wrong. We'll find out in the video in a second. But she is pushing a bill to protect your gate. That's just what she says, right? Because any violation, anytime you're taking information about me, it's a Fourth Amendment. It could be a Fourth Amendment violation. So her bill, I want you to listen to it. Her bill, I believe, is only there to protect you against corporations, not from law enforcement, which makes absolutely no sense to me. So if you're saying it's a Fourth Amendment violation for corporations, that means it's also a Fourth Amendment violation for the government. So what we're doing is installing a police state into New York City and we're doing that under the guise of that we want to keep you safe. And we're doing that because we have inept leaders like Eric Adams, Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, and you idiots keep voting for them. So listen to this. Listen to this news clip. It's insane.
New Yorkers know sometimes the fastest way to get from point A to point B is just to walk. But did you know the way you walk is being monitored and could even be used to identify you? John Diaz explains how and why a local politician is trying to save your stride.
In a city with nearly 200,000 street corners, there seems to be surveillance cameras on each one, documenting your every move. And now experts say a more modern way of identifying people in the Big Apple is becoming a growing trend: gait recognition.
The way you walk, the motions, it's also your voice, the cadence, things that make you just as unique as you are being captured and can be used to identify you for whatever reason.
While City Council member Jennifer Gutierrez says this could be a good way to track down criminals, it does come with some cons, like the invasion of privacy for law-abiding citizens.
That the average New Yorker is certainly not giving consent to being surveilled, let alone, their face, their eyes, their way they walk, and the sound of their voice being captured.
She has introduced a bill that, if passed, would legally make gait patterns personal identifying information that would be protected like tax records, and city agencies would have to inform people they're being recorded this way. Experts say there are gate systems that can identify people up to 165 feet away, even with their backs turned or faces covered. Some New Yorkers fear it's too much.
That's a no. That's wrong.
Definitely some guidelines should be sent around that.
They watch us every day, everything we do.
And experts tell me other states, as well as the European Union, already have similar protections in place. But cybersecurity expert Ian Marlowe says it's hard for lawmakers to keep up with changing technology.
The time that we figure out what is acceptable or what is viewed as acceptable in a capacity that people feel comfortable, we're generally behind that time.
From Williamsburg, Brooklyn, John Diaz, CBS News, New York.
A city spokesperson told us they are currently reviewing the legislation. The NYPD
Wait, hold on. This is the most important point of the whole thing.
There's more. Okay.
Hold on.
The spokesperson told us they are currently reviewing the legislation. The NYPD, meanwhile, already uses this type of tracking system to help solve crimes. Anything the police collect would be exempt from this possible law.
Most important point of that whole clip was that end point. The police department is exempt. So who is exactly is Gutierrez protecting you from? It's a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. Why am I being tracked about the way I walk by the New York City Police Department? How does the New York City Police Department have data on me about the way I walk? They clearly know what a Fourth Amendment violation is, and they're just going ahead of it. What do you guys think?
Well, that's what I was going to say before you said, hold up, there's more. We should have measured Jim's gait before he walked out after his 15 minutes and see what his stride looked like. Jim, what did your stride look like when you were walking out after 15 minutes when you know it's a 2-hour platform? This is a complete violation. I mean, we talk about this often, the scale and the balance between your civil liberties, your freedom, and safety. I mean, this is far overreach. This is ridiculous. This is out of control. You're going to measure your walk. What's next? You're going to measure the way you move your fingers? I mean, it's getting out of control that everything's being measured. It's complete communism. We need to go back to America. And the police department should be the first place where it's not happening. I believe in safety. I believe in intrusive police work, but not to the point that we're actually taking away civil liberties and we're getting involved in people's privacy. We talked about this, I think it was two years ago, John. We talked about the NYPD doing surveillance with drones in people's backyards, and you have an expectation to privacy. This is another intrusion on your privacy. This is going too far.
Your mic's off, Mark.
Well,
I mean, I know. I did that on purpose. That was for hardcore. That was because I'm sitting in for Marlon, so I had to do it one time in the show.
Ron, are you the white
hardcore,
Marlon?
all right. But yeah, no. Listen, I'm torn on it because, like you said, the drones in the backyard, I'm against. I think you have an expectation of privacy in your backyard. If you can't see it from the public access, but now what they say is, all right, above the certain height is public access. So I think that's overreach. Walking down the street, there's no expectation of privacy. But yeah, it's a lot, and but is it violating your rights when you're just walking down the streets? I don't know.
Absolutely, it is. You could measure my gait. Nobody's saying that you can't measure my gait. You're tracking me now. You're putting me in a database. They're fighting against the gang database from known gang members, and you're tracking me. This is 1984, people. And a year from now, they're going to be talking about how they're watching you through your TV and through here to ensure that you're pushing the government message, to ensure that King Cuomo, because of the food, you got to have a sandwich, bro. You can't have the chicken wings. This guy's making chicken wings in his house. Send the state troopers there. Said because it's not substantive food. He didn't listen. I told him. This guy don't listen. And this is what's happening. Is it's a huge If anyone hasn't read 1984, please read it. You can watch the movie. The movie's not as good as the book, but you can watch the movie. This is what this is. We're just encroachment. Yeah, you can measure my gait all day. Why do you know that's John McCarry walking down the block? You put me in a database somewhere and you have all my identifiable features. I didn't give you permission for that. You didn't pay me for that. If you want my identifiable features, sure. $10 million I charge. That's it.
But there is an expectation to privacy when you walk in the street. Yes, you're in public, but think about it. I know it sounds kind of off the cuff, but we don't put a camera that looks under women's skirts when they walk. We don't put a camera that looks at women's cleavage when they walk, because that would be, first of all, that would be a complete sexual allegation. That would be sick. But the bottom line is, that's expectation. That's their privacy, right? So why does it matter if we?
I'm just thinking about meatpacking.
Are you still on that?
A meatpacking gang database, and Rob
John,
says, "Is there a gate database?"
John, what was your gate like in the meatpacking district? What was that like? Why would you walk like? But you know what I'm saying? Listen, I know it's not the same, but we don't put cameras on the women's skirts and their cleavage because of expectation of privacy. Why would their walk be any different? So I just think that at some point, that is your personal space. I mean, we'll start looking to what's people's pockets. I think we're losing the balance of intrusive police work being totally intrusive, taking away freedoms and civil liberties. So do we have to, unfortunately, supplement and tip the scales that we have all this technology that could make us safer, but if we're going to tip the scales that we're going to live in a society that everything's controlled and monitored, I don't want to live in a society like that.
Again, the NYPD is keeping you in the gate database. Gang database? No. Gate database. Yeah. Everybody's saying here, Rob Lukash, Chronicles of the Collapse. Hardcore saying there's no expectation of privacy. Again, you could film me. You could measure me. You could snap a picture of me. Why are you keeping me in a database? Why do you have my identifiable features in a database? I don't, it's 100% an unlawful search. This again is another version of stop, question, and frisk for everybody.
Right.
That's all it is. It's you're literally being searched and there's a seizure there. The seizure is your identifiable features and you're being kept. Absolutely not. You want my stuff? Pay me. $10 million I charge right now. Next year with inflation the way it's going, probably about 17.
Is this going to be racist too? You know what? Based on the person's gait, we could tell that was a black man. Based on their gait, we could tell it was a white man. Based on John's gait, we could tell he was walking the meatpacking district. I mean, are we going to, we're laughing, but it's just ridiculous. It's out of control. At what point, I mean, listen, it happens in China right now. If you jaywalk, right, they can tell by your eyes and you get a summons, it goes right to your house. Is that the society we want to live in?
Right. Well, that's China. That's communist China.
That's what this is starting to sound like China.
Because China's doing this. That's what China is doing that right now.
I know. Yeah.
Hardcore says we need those cameras. What do we need them for? So the detective that showed up at the stands knows everybody's gate. Or we need a meat packing database too. I think meat packing.
But you know what's sad about it, John? And here's the reality. And Ron, you spoke about it earlier, right? This is where I have a problem. So we get leadership that's in a position that has to do with that, what that administration tells them to do. If they tell me that we're going to use this camera and now part of your process of a detective investigation is to find out what people's gates are, I'm not doing it. But you know what? Oh, we solved that robbery. Did you find out what kind of gates they have? I mean, come on. At what point does it's ridiculous?
You see Hardcore's response? His follow-up?
Yeah. But I didn't see it. What is it?
I'll pop it up.
No, I meant Eric. You guys are messed up. Listen, but it could keep us safe. You never know. That's the whole thing. I don't know. I just think it's a complete overreach. And again, you see and the reason I brought that up is the problem in city council. She's literally sitting there telling you she's protecting you. Who the hell are you protecting us from? What do I care if Walt Disney has my gate? They shouldn't either. They should have to pay me for it. But if you're literally saying it's a Fourth Amendment violation, oh, but we're going to exclude the NYPD. It's like, wait. Oh, but you're fighting to get the gang database removed too, right? Oh, logic here. Yeah, logic. And, because Cuomo, because food. It's like, honestly, the people in New York City are horrendous at this point. That's why I brought that up, to follow up with the Athena. Like, if you guys could, please, $5, $10, get her over that matching funds. Really would appreciate it. Guys, you got anything before we get out of here? 2 hours. New York City votes. Yep. Oh, thank you, sir. You're the best. Ron Leyson sent a donation. You're the best, Ron. So, guys, you got anything? Ron, you want to weigh in about that? Anything?
No. Listen, I think it was, stuff that needs to be said. It's going to be continued to be said. We got what do we got? 5 weeks left. We really got to, like I said, every vote counts, and we have to get it out there and get out of these people's heads that he can't win, so I'm not going to vote because I don't want to waste my vote. You're not wasting your vote. You're wasting your vote by not voting, and then, like you said, we have a chance here. We have to capitalize. We can't have voter apathy in New York. We have to get out there. We just have to. And then I'll see you guys at 5:05 p.m. with my partner Rob Lukash on the Executive Perspective. And we're going to be talking just about this today. We're going to be talking about the last 3 months, what the last 3 months of the NYPD is going to look like under Eric Adams, and what we think might be going on, and what we think that Tish needs to look out for. We're going to talk about Eric dropping out and what that means to the other.
Ron, what time is that?
Like we talked about today. Excuse me?
What time is that? Because sometimes John confuses. What time?
1705 military time.
Listen, everyone, it's almost 2 hours and 15 minutes into it. It's 2 hours longer than Jim Walden was on today. Jim Walden did a drive-by. So you know what? Jim, listen, we love you, brother. We don't like your choice, but you know what? Next time, if you have a
Mandami was on longer.
Was he? I think it did 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, he gave us like 25. We extended it a little bit. All right, guys.
You know what's funny though? Before we go, every time we have a candidate that is in a situation where they're going to rush off, they're not in their own original environment. Mamdani was in someone else's apartment. Jim was, I don't know, somewhere. So.
Yeah, there's no way Mandani lives in an apartment that looks like his. Like, he has like my grandmother's 1980 yellow kitchen with the Formica. I'm like, yeah, bro.
I got to throw this up. Rob's got one for you. Rob, no cash.
John never messed up the time on his teeth. You're right.
That's right.
You're right.
Listen, almost 2 hours and 15 minutes into it. Thank you, everyone. Find some Unfiltered. Ron and Rob will be on tonight, Executive Perspective. And, of course, tomorrow, back with Sal Greco. We'll be back Friday with your roundtable. If you want Jim Walden back here, Hit up Jim on X. Tell Jim come back to the Finest Unfiltered. Let's do a real 2-hour episode where Jim has a stamina to stand by and get behind and actually show us the logic why he got behind and endorse Andrew Cuomo. Ron, thanks for coming in.
Let's go Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Ron, you go with the hat backwards?
Absolutely. Hit Jim up on X and let him know what you thought about his interview today and his stances. So do us that favor. Also, do us a big favor. Go over to www.thefinestunfiltered.com, powered by Cicada Traders. Check them out if you like our website. They build the websites. They do a great job. Good guys. Look at that website. Subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to that website. Check out the news articles. Go over the news section. You know, we put about us section, all that stuff in there. You could also donate via that website as well. And I see a lot of you guys are donating, so we appreciate that. And yeah, just that. Check us out, www.thefinestunfiltered.com. Friday, we'll be back at the roundtable. Ron's going on 5:05.
17:05 hours, baby.
I did it. All right. And Sal will be back on tomorrow. I'm actually jumping on with Sal tomorrow. So I'll be back. I'm going to be doing round 2 of Andrew Cuomo. And so, yeah. Anything else, guys?
No. Listen, it was a great episode. Thank you as always, chat, friends, listeners. We appreciate it. Hard X Cause, remind you, 17:05. Yeah, everybody. Thank you so much for the engagement. We appreciate it. Jim Walden, we'll see you soon, brother. Be safe out there.
Last thing we forgot, super chats.
Yes, I think it was 2 of them.
Super chats. Formerly known as Gang, Coffee for the Boys, and Down with Cuomo, the COVID dictator, $9.99. Thank you, sir. Tom, Jim was a Cuomo plant from day one. Prove me wrong. Kind of hard to argue with you now, my friend. Not gonna lie. $1.99. He says, bye, Felicia. I guess he was talking to Jim.
That was when Jim left.
Yeah, $1.99. So many pirates jumping from ship to ship. Disgusting. Absolutely. First it was Adams. Now it's Cuomo. 100%. With Jim's logic, why have any primaries? It's true. It's a great point, Tom. You know what? I didn't even think of that. That's a great point. And then Tom said the whole country was not excessive. Just stop it. True. I was going to Florida. That's where I decided. I was like, oh wow, look, I could go to a restaurant and I could hang out on the beach. Wow, that's weird. Even though DeSantis did do the wrong thing immediately, he stopped it like real quick. Because he ultimately said, what the hell am I doing? That we're shutting down the Constitution. This doesn't seem right. So all right. So thanks everybody for the super chats. We appreciate you. Like we said, we'll be back.
It's for you, Louis.
Right. Measure your gate. The Finest Unfiltered.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?